Welcome to Learning SQL on Azure. My name is Rafael. In this video now, I'm going to give you a quick introduction of the Azure interface. Now this is not necessarily an Azure class per se because we're going to be concentrating on SQL databases on Azure platform. But I just want to give you a brief navigational tour of how to navigate and accessing databases. There are multiple ways of doing it, and I'm also going to show you how to create a new database so we can keep track of all the databases. So what I want you to do is simply type in the https://portal.azure.com, and as soon as you press enter, you'll get this page once you've signed. So here now, type in your email. So I'm going to type in mine. And basically we're logging on to the Azure portal, and it's going to ask for your password, so enter your password. And press enter, and here we go. So as you can see, this is the login portal that we have, and you've seen this before. So a couple of things I do want to mention here. There's a tremendous amount of resources, and I encourage you to certainly look at it, even though we're going to be concentrating on the SQL. Here, if you'll notice here, we've got the three bars here. If I click on that, you'll notice it's a ribbon where we can access. If this is regarded as home, and you can also create a resource. So if you can click on that, it will navigate to this page. And again, if we can select from databases, so if you wanted to do a quick tutorials and find out a little more, I encourage you to do that. If we click on the databases here and then click on, now here of course you can see that not only does Azure support SQL databases, but it does support Postgres, MySQL, and Mongo, and so on. So one we're going to be concentrating on, of course, is the SQL databases. So if I click on this, and you can see that it allows you to create the databases. I have not logged on yet as for my pay-as-you account, so that's why I'm getting this. But this is where we're going to start creating a database. And again, we can go back to home. You can also go all resources, and then again, you will have all the information relevant to your environment. But again, we haven't done anything there. So again, let's look at it. If we click on more services, again, tremendous amount, and I encourage you to go up and back and forth. So here again, anywhere you see SQL databases, you can navigate to them. And of course, you can type in up here. If you type in SQL, and then you'll get a list of what you're looking for. So when we create SQL servers or SQL databases or elastic pools and managed instances and so on, and even the virtual machine that we'll talk about, this is one way you can navigate. So if I click on this, it'll take me to the SQL databases. And let's go back. And here now, if you look on the dashboard, this is your default dashboard. You can create dashboards. Now, I personally like to create separate dashboards for different departments. So when I do create a SQL server or a virtual instance, depending on my needs on the virtual environment, it's self-contained within this dashboard. That's not necessary, but that's something I do. So if you want to, this is the default. And let me actually click on this first because I do want you to go on this default dashboard. And if I click on it, you'll notice that you get the Azure SQL documentation. And I highly encourage you to navigate through this page and learn a lot. This is where I've learned when I used to do SQL Server. This is where I certainly addressed it. Here, as you can see, the three areas that we'll be working on is the SQL databases, SQL managed instances, and SQL Azure VMs. And then of course you can look overviews of what the databases are and so on. And again, we're going to be talking about some of these, not every single thing, but we're going to be talking about as much as we can. But again, if you want to learn more, I certainly encourage you to navigate to this page. So now if we go back to Azure here, again, I encourage you to look at all these pages going back and forth and back and forth. And that's fine. So let me kill that. Now, if you wanted to create a separate dashboard, you can simply click on here and go dashboard, or new dashboard. We'll call it a blank dashboard. You can call it whatever you want. We'll just leave it as my dashboard. Now here you'll see that we have a pane here where we can create whatever you want. So let's say we wanted to add a clock, and once you've added these tiles, you can left click and move them to wherever you want. And then when we actually create databases, And servers will have a separate dashboard for that. But this is just a quick example of what you can do. You can do click on users, and again, just give it a second, and again, you can use them for whatever you want, and let's say done to them. So here you can, once you're satisfied with your dashboard, you can just simply save it. And now you'll notice that here you can click on this My Dashboard and Dashboard. If I click on this one, we'll go back to the original. And if you want to go back to here, the My Dashboard, which we created, here you can of course refresh it. You can expand it to full screen, and you can exit full screen also. You can edit it if you want. If you wanted to change the tiles, you can do that. Done customizing. Download, clone, and then of course you can delete it. So I'm going to delete it and say OK, and we're back to square one. Here you'll notice also that it auto refreshes. You can turn it off or set the timer for auto refresh. So this is just a quick view of how to actually run along with the dashboard. So let's go back here. And again, as I said, there are several ways of accessing databases. So here, if I click on SQL databases, it will allow me to create databases. What I do by creating the ad, and I'm going to show you that in the next video. But again, this is something that you should be familiar with. And again, I encourage you to navigate yourself and try to look for everything. And this is something we'll be talking about in the upcoming videos. So here is just the front end GUI for the SQL Server environment that we'll be working with. As I said, Azure has a tremendous amount of services, not just SQL related or database related. And I encourage you, if you're interested in any of those, to look at this environment. Okay, so that's all I wanted to quickly introduce. So we are now actually going to start creating a database, and as I said, there are multiple ways of creating or navigating to SQL databases. So I'm going to leave here. We'll continue with the next video. So my name is Rafael, and this is Learning SQL on Azure. See you in the next video.